Brooklyn and New York City are quite clearly expensive all over the place. For us, the goals are really ambitious, being that places are so close together and spaces are usually so small. I mean, to find a place in New York where you can play music and you can host people, that's a lot to ask. We had to find some place like this where basically the rent was made for one person, but we decided to kind of be a little creative with the space and make it so two people could live there. So once we came in, it was just a big empty space, but we spoke with the landlord and let him know that the two of us would be living here and that we'd be building some walls, and the terms were you could do whatever you want as long as you don't mess with the floors. So we put up this wall, and then a wall between us. When we first moved in here, this was just one big space. We kind of recognized, like, all right, maybe we can have really tiny bedrooms and then allow ourselves the opportunity to have a really big living room and expand the kitchen, and so we could still host and have our friends over. And since we saw that there was the potential to play music, we wanted to find a way to make it work. So eventually we built up, we lofted our beds in each of these areas, and then we built the framework for these walls, and then we put up the sheetrock and insulation before that. But for a while we didn't have rooms, we were just sort of camping out on the floor. Adam was able to really cleverly design these rooms where they're super tiny, but they feel really open and comfortable, particularly when you're on the bed. It's about 7.5 feet by 7.5 feet. It's exactly, so I had a queen and you had a double, full?
Yeah.
So it was exactly big enough to fit each of our beds. So all this blue, brown, and white wood, we were looking on Craigslist a lot to find some sort of wood to use as a veneer for the stairs, for our desks, and for above our beds. And we found this guy on Craigslist, had a 53-foot shelf that he had deconstructed, and he was looking to give away the wood for free. And so we applied it above our beds, to the stairs, and to our desks in both our bedrooms. And it just happened to have all this character, which is great. These rooms are sort of designed so you're most comfortable in bed. Feel free to come on in. You can see, I designed it because I like to watch TV in bed or read books in bed, so I have all this stuff right here, and each of us have a little custom shelf like this. Because for us, we're really going to be in these rooms when we're going to bed. So we wanted to design around what we want to do just before going to bed. So from here, I can read, I can watch TV. I also have the window outside. I have 2 windows to the inside. So it feels bigger when you're up here. It makes it cozier, but at the same time, it's completely comfortable. I'm never about to hit my head, or I have plenty of room to move around. Again, it's designed to be very comfortable around the bed. And so it's the tiniest room I've ever lived in, and it's the best room I've ever lived in. It's so comfortable, and it's designed around our needs, and everything's where you want it. Everything's an arm's reach away, so these are really bed rooms, I don't want a bigger room, This is perfect for me.
So my head's at this end, the opposite end of Adam, which also maximizes the soundproofing between our rooms, just by way of our bodies being physically further apart from each other. For me, it feels like I'm laying in the cabin of an overnight train or in a boat, and especially with the white and the brown and the blue, it feels very nautical, which there's something very comforting about that. It's easy to stay in this bed for way longer than I should. It's very cozy. The size of this room, it's kind of remarkable because it's smaller than I've ever been in, but it's the most comfortable room I've ever been in. I don't need expansive space in the room that I'm sleeping in. I really think of it as, this is my bedroom, it's the room for my bed, and my other room is the kitchen, and that's the room I'm in most of the time, my waking hours most of the time. So yeah, this is just exactly what we need. I don't have a TV, I have my computer, and I tend to watch cooking shows before I go to bed. Although, I'm trying to read before bed more. I've got some books here. Yeah, I have my laptop, and I often sit up, and I don't usually have my boots on, but I usually do computer work here. And when you send an email, it's a nice little makeshift desk right in my bed. I installed these little metal clips here. It holds up my laptop. And it's nice, it's at that angle and I can type on it. It's actually very comfortable to type on. I feel like this whole apartment, and particularly the rooms, feel like they fit like a glove.
Downstairs, we have this standing desk, but then we also have these stools, which I made previously a few years ago. These are shipping pallets. The wood on here was found. We're big on found materials. The windows, both windows were found. The door was found. All the colored wood you see here was found. And again, we were trying to do it all on a budget, so we used a lot of ply for the framework of the bed and for the shelves and for this too, and for the stairs. I guess for safety, but also just for a look, we installed some LED lights in them, so they actually have like a little bit of like a dimmer. And I even like did a little storage inside of the stairs too for things like laundry detergent and stuff. With the desks, we decided to just make storage for all our excess kind of stuff on the side, but again, tried to keep it very minimal and sleek. Same thing for all my clothing. I tried to cut it all down. And then here are the drawers where I have like just like shirts and shorts and socks and, you know, all that stuff kind of here. Behind there is just like a lot of excess junk, like suitcases and random boxes and that kind of stuff.
Underneath here I've got several guitar cases, which are really bulky items, and other large items like my camping bag and...
Wow, so you've all that space under the bed.
Yeah, a ton of space. And yeah, if we hadn't lofted the beds, we would have had to find a place to put a lot of these big things, so this really created a great space for that. It's really the bare essentials, you know. I've got this little desk. I mean, you know, the way Adam designed the beds, this would have sort of been dead space if we hadn't capitalized on it as, you know, a desk and storage space. So it's really nice, you know, when I need to send an email and I wake up, I come down here and I'm able to stand, or I can pull a stool in and sit on it. And yeah, down here's my office-y sort of things, like scissors and hole punchers and my checks and envelopes.
It's a sliver of a space.
It's a sliver of space, but you know, with the vertical height of it, you're able to get quite a bit in there. Under here we've got, you know, our hanging stuff, our shirts and some jackets, and then, you know, socks, underwear, shorts.
With a lot of dress shirts, a lot of plaid shirts, a suit or two. We just tried to decrease the amount of clothing we had. And so we created these tiny closets for ourselves. But again, it kind of expands out up into here where we have some sweaters hanging, and then these are bigger coats in the hallway. So here we have, in essence, kind of our walk-in closet hallway, which was sort of created once we put these walls up. Because we actually built these walls too. Built these for our room. And so as a result of putting these walls here, we created this hallway. And once we created the hallway, we were like, well, we gotta have hallway lights. And so we rerouted this lighting over here and added a little switch over here. So we have hallway lights. The idea was this would both be a hallway, but kind of our walk-in closet. So we have like our shoes and random things all over here. In winter, we keep our coats and stuff over here. We tried to account for using these like IKEA expedite shelving, and we used them all over. And we wanted to allow for enough space so that we could still close our doors. And we just barely, you know, have enough for that. We tried to make our doors do this full swing so that the hallway itself could be open. This part's kind of Evan's stuff, so it looks like books, basketball.
Yeah, it's a lot of the extra stuff, you know, but yeah, I needed extra storage for books. You know, I have some of my camping gear here, some water bottles, and, you know, a little propane fuel tank.
A lot of shoes.
A lot of shoes, you know, I keep my backpack out here.
We took some of our old clothing, we used it to insulate these walls actually. So we bought real insulation for the wall between us and for the wall between Evan and the living room. But then in here we actually just used a lot of clothing and stuffed the walls with like shirts and shorts and that kind of thing to try to sound insulate. We did 2 layers of sheetrock on each side. We did legitimate insulation inside. And then we also have this wood veneer on top on both sides. Yeah. So there's really a lot of material layered between us. We also have like this like air purifier here, which like makes a little bit of white noise too. We really don't hear each other. Yeah. We wanted it to be really well sound insulated, and it is. Hey Evan. Yeah, you see it's pretty sound insulated. Evan! Yeah. We definitely thought about very specifically what we need, not like we spend a lot of time outside. So this is just like, we didn't need a huge bedroom at all. We really needed this, you know.
taken up a lot more room for the bedrooms.
The bedrooms are like the smallest. I feel like the kitchen itself is bigger than both our bedrooms combined.
Yeah, I think if this
I think
is
it
my
is.
room, and that's where I sleep. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, this is where I'm living most of the time. When we moved in, the kitchen was pretty sad. And as we lived here, Adam and I would stand here and we call it dreaming. And we just sit here and imagine and dream.
Should we demonstrate? We do this.
It's something like this. And we'll just stand here for a long time and just, I had a vision for, I was seeing online that in Europe a lot, it's standard to have a dish drying rack that's above the sink and drips into it. And I thought it was so brilliant because I hated taking up counter space, which is so precious in New York, with a drying rack. And Adam was able to execute and build on this design. We hacked apart IKEA drying racks, and it was a very custom job. We had to get clips and join things up here. We used paint trays here, then we cut holes in them, and so. But it works really well. And I wash something and I dry it, and it drips into the sink. When you put a plate away, it dries and lives there in the same spot. One thing we've started to really appreciate living in a space like this is seeing walls as storage. Because this is all, if you're not hanging things from here, it's all dead space that you're not using. So why have to shove these things in a drawer and use that precious space when you have this wall and you can hang it? And not only that, but it makes it extremely convenient to grab the things you need. When I have my baking stuff kind of organized where I'm using my stand mixer when I'm making cakes or muffins or whatever, and I can just reach here and grab the measuring cups or grab the whisk. I have it all organized above the stove where I need these tools. I have these tools waiting for me, and it's super convenient. When you build a place out while you're living in it, you start to add things that you realize you need from out of necessity or out of your desires. So when we're in the kitchen, we're constantly adding shelving and adding things because I start to realize this would be really nice right here. Having all the dry ingredients right here, you put it to a spot where we could both reach based on how tall we happen to be. I can just get it without going on my tippy toes, which is convenient and nice.
But it's also high enough that this door can still open and it not be an issue.
You really start to mold the living space around you and around your needs, and that makes it feel particularly rewarding to live here.
So you cook just for fun, or do you do it for work?
I would call it a serious obsession of a hobby. I really mostly do it for fun, although we're starting to host more and more dinners seriously. There's some websites out there that allow you to host supper clubs for strangers. That's another thing we're trying to do is combine our skills and see if we can find other ways to decrease the rent here. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, we've gotten into this thing where basically we're hosting dinners and we're cooking meals for people and we're hosting them in this space in the garage.
So here's the garage. These are the dining tables. Both these tables and the benches to match. We use shipping pallets to make them. Over here is kind of like a workshop area. The middle area is kind of our dining space where we host those meals. And then the back area is kind of like our performance space where we have the drums and piano and can play music. So we added these big sound insulating panels. On the other side of this is the street, but we've insulated the room well enough that we can play whenever. On that Craigslist post, they didn't even mention, they mentioned there was a garage, and that was it. They didn't feature it. And I think it's because they figured most people wouldn't really use it. I think the guy before us was fixing his motorcycle in here.
Right.
And once we really made our rooms as tiny as possible, it created even more space for all the things we want to do. I think we're trying to capitalize on our skills and what we can do and find ways to decrease rent as a result of it.
really try to, make the most out of a space like this by creating a, sort of DIY performance space and restaurant, within it.
And so we invested all this work and time into making this space great, and now we're trying to find creative ways to
sort of benefit from our combination of skills and this apartment and decrease the rent even more.
In an odd way, this whole space is like both of our giant laboratory. Like he can experiment with all of his cooking ideas and kitchen-related ideas, and I can experiment with all my construction and design-related ideas, and they all just sort of fuse together in this space. This is how it's going to go up, with exactly like that. So can you hold on to it for a second?
Yeah.
So we're going to put it up like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to put one screw right through here. I threw this together with just a bunch of extra wine bottles we had, some extra plywood we had. Okay, you should be able to let go now. How's that feel?
Solid.
How'd you run electrical work?
YouTube? It's not rocket science. That's pretty good. We both learned a lot just from living in here and doing the things we do. Just sort of trying, experimenting. Yeah!
It works.
This we kind of threw together with like some extra plywood, like scraps, extra wine bottles. There's another thing I just sort of like had in my mind and I just wanted to build it.
Yeah, it's nice. Our bathroom was so boring before.
Yeah.
It's a lot of...
When you have a space like this that allows you to have your tools and do cutting and make noise, like enhances our creativity. A lot of this stuff is like the furniture I made when I was first starting out. It's all made from salvaged shipping pallets around Brooklyn.
It's everyone else's trash.
Yeah. We just threw these together in like a day, made a plywood, stained them, and so they fit our bikes and the things we need, like our bike locks and all that kind of stuff, and our helmets. It's exactly what we need. My dad was visiting New York City for one day, and he's been here a bunch. And so we spent the whole day. My dad and I, we built these 2 bike racks, and he said it was the best day he's ever spent in New York City. So these I made a few years ago, and the goal is to make them into basically guitar stools. There was 3 of them, and I wanted to make them so you can play 3 assorted chords, and then you can sort of play music if you sat with 3 friends, like a G chord, a C chord, an A minor chord. Ominous, like, but these are guitar strings. I installed real guitar tuning knobs onto them too. Just a big fun experiment. Just the soundtrack to our lives. I get these ideas and then I just sort of have to build them and see if they'll work, That's another thing I didn't consider is like the way you play it is you gotta I don't know, it just looks kind of strange just looks odd. You can also play from the side here too. Isn't this your favorite song?
That's the one. Yeah. Get it every time.
Yep. Ooh. There we go. This whole thing has been a project for many months, but the benefit of this is we get to live inside the project. So we're always just surrounded with our efforts and reaping the benefits of living in a well-designed space and doing it ourselves. We're just filled with a lot of pride. We didn't hire guys to do it. We figured it out ourselves, and it was just really rewarding. Evan, you want to hear a good goofy name?
What's that?
I just got an email from someone named Zoltan. And that doesn't leave. We kind of feel that every day. Yeah.